Are you racing Ironman Barcelona on the 1st of October? If so, this video is so for you because I'm going to go through the course breakdown in terms of swim, bike, and run and give you hints and tips that will help you for each. This is coming from someone who has completed Ironman Barcelona 4 times with a PB of 940. I'll also talk a little bit about nutrition. I'll talk a little bit about equipment that's best for the course and some logistics you need to start thinking of now to make sure you are absolutely bulletproof come race day. I'm also an IRONMAN U certified coach, and my name is Stephen Moody, or Coach Steve, as my athletes know me. And I am going to talk you through all you need to know to get ready for your Ironman debut or your Ironman Barcelona debut. So let's get to it. As I said, we're going to talk swim, bike, run tips. We're also going to talk about some key training sessions you probably should nail down between now and the 1st of October. I'll also talk about some non-training things that will also help you in terms of mental prep, nutrition, equipment selection. So know your route, know your enemy, or just know the route. This is your swim course for the Ironman Barcelona. It's in the sea. It's an ocean swim, therefore it can be a bit choppy. Only once have they had to shorten the swim or cut the swim down because of the weather. Most time it's a full swim and wetsuit legal. There are some wildlife there. I will see some of the odd jellyfish, but nothing to be panicked about. They don't go around in swarms. But what tips do I give for swimming Ironman Barcelona? One is seed yourself correctly. What do I mean by seeding? Since Ironman have done away with the mass starts that you see the videos of everyone piling in because it used to frighten the life out of beginners, and it was a little bit more dangerous. So now they have a seeded swim where you mean people go in by groups of 5 by 5. So how does that work? You have to seed yourself in terms of what your expected swim finish time is going to be. So if you are a part man, part fish, and you're going to swim an hour for the swim, you will go, and when you go to the AW corral with a yellow sign that says under 60 minutes, you put yourself in there with the rest of the fish. If you're more human like me, you'll look for something like under the 90-minute swim time, and then you put yourself in there. This is the way to do it. And a lot of people think, well, I'm going to be close to cutoff time. I'll put myself, so I'll go in the water first. Don't. That's a really dumb idea because it doesn't give you any advantages because your timing only starts when you cross the mat at the just under the swim arch. If you do see yourself correctly, it gives you 2 advantages. One, you don't get involved in any sort of people swimming over you like stronger swimmers might do. 2, it gives you a chance to be in with swimmers of your own ability and therefore to draft off them. And drafting is key, a skill in Ironman swimming. I'll talk about that in a little bit in a few moments. It is a little shallow when you start going in, so you'll run in, but then there's a bit of a dip. So do prepare that you'll sort of go in and then it'll drop down quite quickly. So prepare for yourself for that. Key tip here is wear 2 swim hats. One just a normal swim hat, and then put your goggles on, and then your Ironman swim hat, which you have to wear, put that over to secure your goggles. It means your goggles won't get knocked off. Always good to have them for the entire swim. If you are a nervous swimmer and a swimmer, first timer, I would advise you to go wide at the turning buoys. The turning buoys tend to be the red ones. And what do I mean by going wide? If you think about it, the fastest line from A to B is a straight line, and this can cause a lot of stronger swimmers going quite close to the buoys. Therefore, it can get quite congested. And therefore, it's more likely to get someone to push you down, someone grab your leg, just as they're trying to grab water. They're not out and no one's out to try and mess up your swim. But if you get in the way of someone when they're stroking and they push you down, it's just something you don't want to be in. A way you avoid that is you go wide at the buoys. You go, okay, because it might add a couple of meters onto your swim, but it means you won't get involved in any kind of physical contact, which if you're a nervous swimmer, you want to avoid that. Go wide at the buoys. In terms of the buoy colors, the yellow ones are going to be your directional buoys. They will always be on your left-hand side. And the turning buoys, I would advise you to use them as sighting points. What do I mean by sighting? Sighting is when we make sure we're swimming in a straight line and in the right direction. So therefore, you will need to be every kind of 3 or 6 strokes or whatever your pattern, instead of having your head down looking at the bottom of the ocean, you look up and you see where you're heading. Typically, in a normal swim, we aim for something big, stationary building, or a tree on the side of a cliff. That if you're heading towards that, it means you go in a straight line. seeing as you're swimming in the ocean, there's not a huge amount of sighting points to go for. So I use the red buoy. So each time you pop up and you see you're looking at a red buoy, perfect. That's where I'm heading in the right direction. You're also parallel to the shore. As long as you're not ending up on the beach and you're heading towards the red buoy, you're minimizing the extra distance you're going to put on your swim. And 3.8 is more than enough. You don't need to add any more on. As you can see, there are around 6 turning buoys. Okay. Not too much of a current to worry about. At the time of the day the swim's on, it tends to be quite nice, calm and flat. Okay. Do draft as much as possible. As we were talking about earlier, drafting is key in Ironman. Whereas it means that when you're swimming behind or nearby to the hip of someone who is a stronger swimmer, they're doing more of the work. They're breaking the water tension a little bit, and their kick is creating bubbles for you to swim in, and it makes it an easier swim for you, and you save a bit of energy. Drafting is 100% legal on the swim, not the bike. So therefore, it's great if you can find someone roughly your ability and hop in their feet and stick on their feet. Okay, so we go down. We've turned here. We've turned here. This is the longest part of the day. These are 100 meters, and then that way. The last sighting point you're going to be looking for is the black arch, which is at that stage you'll know you've only got around 100 meters in. So I recommend that you kick your legs a little bit more when you've made that final 6th turn and you're heading towards a black arch. Why is that? Because if you think about it, it will have been horizontal for the best part of an hour 20, an hour and a half, or whatever it's going to be. So when you try to stand up, and if you stand up too quickly, all the blood goes from drains down to your legs, and you get a bit faint, and you can see these people wobbling out. If you kick harder, it helps your circulation and gets the blood around a bit more, and it helps lessen that jelly leg feeling. Okay, so you've nailed a swim. We're feeling like a champ. We're heading into transition 1, which is this kind of tent here. And then the transition area is in a big AstroTurf football pitch, which we'll talk a little about here. As it is it's a kind of compact area, and there's 70.3ers and there's fulls in there. So there'll be around 3,000 to 4,000. I'm not too sure what the sign-up numbers are. It is compact, but it will be crowded. So it's key that the day before, when you're racking your bike, you make sure you know what way you're going to run out of the changing tent after you've grabbed your blue bag and you've changed in your blue bag. I'll talk about that in transition bags in a second, that you know where you're going to. Good thing with Barcelona, it has the rows all have big letters on them, A, B, C, D, and it is, as it is in an AstroTurf pitch, there's certain things you can aim for. There's kind of like the goalposts are still sort of off to the side, but the flood lamps are still up there. So if you know that I'm between B and C, and walk this a couple of times the day before, just make sure you know where you're going, because it'll look very different when you're coming out of the water and there's hundreds of people running around you and everyone scrambling to get on their bikes. Walk it. I'm between B and C. I'm midway up. There you go. That's what my bike is going to be. It's right beside the second pole there. That's where I need to go. Make sure you're aware of that. It will make for an easier transition. As I said, transition in Ironman has very specific rules. It's not like your local domestic race where you just rock up and you put your helmet there, you put your runners there, and you're right beside the bike and you put your little towel out. You need to use their transition bag system, which is a blue bag from swim to bike and a red bag, bike to run. For transition 1, what you will be doing is you'll be coming up off the beach. There's showers that you come under and they wash you off, and you go into transition tent. You will grab your blue bag, and again, part of your course recce, you need to know where that bag is. They will be numbered and in order, but just remember, it's hard to remember and look for, am I 966 or am I 965? Remember that what number you are, know what rack you'll be on, and make it easier. So therefore you don't run past it and do that kind of running back, panicked deer in headlights thing. Pick up your blue bag, you go into the changing tent off the wetsuit goes in the bag. You also take out your helmet, take out your shades, bike shoes, etc., etc. There's a bit more transition bags about how to prepare them, and if you want to check that out, there's a video in the links below that shows you how the bags work, what goes in what, and how to make sure that you're prepared and all the rest, and just minimizing stress on race day. Okay, we've got our helmet on, we've gone past, got our bike, we're out and we're on past the mountain line. Oh, 1 second. Before we do that, real quick question. Hope you're finding the video useful. If you are, could you please hit that subscribe button? Because I'm trying to grow my channel so I can reach as many cool athletes like you. I'm going to do lots of these course reviews, and the more people I do, the more incentive I have. and I want to make sure I can help as many athletes as possible. So please hit the subscribe button and we'll be friends for life. And there's other content coming. There's how to taper, packing lists, all this other good stuff, and how to get stronger on the bike in the off season, stuff you don't want to miss. Okay, back to the mountain line. We're past the mountain line. We're onto the bike course. Now, the bike course is admittedly quite different to when I cycled it. So I had to kind of talk to some of my athletes and get to the lowdown on how it works out this time. But essentially, it breaks into 3 by 60k loops, and they comprise each of the kind of following elements. There's a flat, fast part on the motorway. The roads are silky smooth in Cayella. It's absolutely brilliant road, mainly motorway roads. There are some hazards, which I'll talk to in a little bit in a second, but they, in general, they're much better than the European roads I've been on. Well, I come from Ireland. You get flat fast, and then you get there's a small climb which they've put in. They didn't have it before, essentially to try to break up the packs. So it's a 2-kilometer climb, roughly around 1.5% to 2% average gradient. So it's not massive, but it's enough to stop you bailing along at 30, 35 an hour, kilometers per hour, whatever your top speed is. So then once you've got past that climb, you have another flat fast part on the motorway, back down to the main turnaround point. Now, this is earlier than what the 70.3 guys do, so I'm not too sure how they siphon off the 70.3 guys, but you turn earlier. They go further down to, I can't remember the name of it, but you turn at Vista del Mar. They go down another 11 kilometers down further. But you turn at 36 marks, the first point. And then another flat, straight run, not an awful lot of, and there's some little rolling hills, but nothing that you need to change out of the big gear for at all. It's very much an aero-based course down in the bars, and you'll fly along. Then you get to the main Cayella turnaround point. So, as I said, just a quick run. This is our first run all the way down to the main climb. Then there's our climb here. Then there's our turnaround point here, and then we have this run all the way back. Okay, so how does that break down into the loops? So loop 1, roughly around down here, there's around 22 mark, our 2k climb, and then our 2k descent down to our turnaround point at 36k, straight run up, bum bum bum, turnaround point at 62. This is just the Cayella turn, straight back down again, and our climb and descent is 80 to 84 this time, down to our turnaround point 93k, all the way back 122k, back down, our third and last climb, third and last turnaround point, and back up. So essentially it's a very easy course. There's not an awful lot to it, but there are nuances that you need to be aware of, because they can cause you to come unstuck if you're not aware of them. First thing is, the first 2 kilometers out of Cayella are along a really narrow back street where there are speed ramps and there are kind of manhole covers. And if it has been raining, it can be quite treacherous. So I know it's a no pass area, but a lot of people come a cropper because they're desperate to get on the bars. They're trying to get the bike computer set up and la 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 la. People drop bottles, etc. Take it really carefully on this first 2k spot and just get out and wait until you're on the motorway before you get on the aero bars, and then sort of let yourself go. It is flat and fast, as I said, but it will get crowded. There's a whole set of 70.3 athletes on there. There's a whole set of Ironman athletes on there as well. And on the third lap, it will be very crowded. Packs form. People get their knickers in a bunch because people are packed. Stay out of it if you can. Keep calm. Don't get into arguments over it, because all you're going to do is going to kind of lose energy, and you'll just want to get yourself stressed. Leave it to the motorcycle marshals. There'll be lots of them. There's plenty of penalty tents out there. Try to keep your nose clean. It is hard at times, but just try to stay out of the packs if you possibly can. The other hazard you need to keep an eye on for is there's a couple of big roundabouts on the roads. And you go, okay, roundabouts are fine. But these roundabouts are quite particular. They have these little dimples on the outside of them. And then there's a little groove in, right? So what I've seen happen to athletes before is they clip either clip the outside of the dimples and go off, or they get sucked into the groove. So don't cut the roundabout really tight. Give yourself space when you're going around it. There's lots of room on it, but just be aware of it. Aid stations, there are buckets of them. I have them all listed here. Recommend You write these down on a piece of paper and stick it onto your bike stem, so you don't have to, if you're thinking, oh God, I feel a bit thirsty, when's the next aid station? If you've got this written down on your stem, you go, okay, actually I'm at, what you call it, 40K. Oh, next one's at 57K. Great, I can last for 17K. As you see, there you go. They're just on the, that's there for you to write down, print off. So you've nailed it. You're rolling into, what you call it, into T2 after 180K bike. Again, be careful. You return via that really narrow stretch, where I said where there's manhole covers and there's speed bumps. But now you've got a lot of tired athletes who are kind of trying to get food on board before they start the run. Again, just be very situationally aware, always looking, always talking. If you're overtaking someone on the course, by the way, because you can't overtake in that little entry and exit area, talk to people. Tell you I'm coming, I'm overtaking. If someone's veering, shout at them. Make sure that they're aware. It can get very congested. You need to take care of yourself. Okay, so we've done 180K. We are almost there. Only a marathon to go. I'm saying that without smiling, but we're into T2. T2, again, it's compact. Now, this is also why you will need to have walked the course from the other side, from the dismount line, where you come in through the little S bend and back into the Astro Park field. So you need to, well, which way do I walk that way? Because it will feel quite different. Yes, you're still between letters B and C, but you have to come around that way. Just make sure you make it very easy for yourself. You will be picking up a red bag this time. Now remember, you can't touch a helmet until after you've racked your bike and you go in and you've got your red bag. But that helmet will go into the red bag. You'll take out your runners, you will put on your shades, your hat, whatever you need. We'll talk about that in equipment. And then you're off and running. And we've just got the marathon to now. So listen, guys, I'm really liking talking to you. I'm sure you're really liking listening to me. This won't slow the video down or anything, but if you hit that like button, it could help me out. Much appreciated. Okay, run course. It's a 3-loop course. Again, it's very flat. It's a mixture of tarmac, concrete, and boardwalk. You know, those little boards, there's a part of that. And then the part up around this area, there's a bit of hard track in terms of kind of old kind of dirt road. Not any way difficult to run on. It's just a little bit of a change in what you call it, underfoot terrain. In an Ironman marathon, pacing is key, especially for the new guys. You go, oh my God, a marathon's going to make my head explode. So let's break it into, 10-kilometer blocks. Everyone can run a 10K. You guys are well fit. You can definitely run a 10K. First 10K, conserve energy, hold back. You're going to go, yes, I am absolutely nailing it. I am running 6-minute kilometers all day long. I never ran 6-minute kilometers in my training runs, but I am feeling great. Look at that crowd. They're cheering. I'm full of Morton. I'm full of Red Bull. No, hold back. First, you actually feel like, oh God, I'm actually going way too slow here. That's perfect. Make sure you just ease yourself into it. We have another 32K to go. Second and third, then you should be hitting your race pace. You'll be hitting all that what you were working on in terms of your long runs and your long bricks off your long bikes. Nail into that. Now keep on top of your nutrition, because this is key. You will have been fueling on the bike. I'll talk about that a little bit more in the next slide, but this is not, you must make sure you use all of the aid stations to make sure you're on top, because you will be running on fumes at this stage. It's even hard to keep up the calorific intake with the amount of carbs you're burning all day long. Fourth and last 10K plus 2K block, it's gonna suck. It's gonna be very hard. This is where you dig into your mental bag of tricks. You go, all right, what am I visualizing? I'm visualizing the finish line. Why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I'm doing it in memory of my mom. I'm doing it to inspire my kids. I'm doing it because someone told me I couldn't do it. Dig into that. Find whatever love or hate that will propel you to the finish line. Dedicate the last few kilometers to a friend that you've lost, or dedicate it to a training buddy. Because in that stage you go, look, I'm dedicating this last 5 kilometers to my mom. There's no way I'm walking. I am doing this all day long. Use whatever mental tricks you need to get down, because at that stage it will be all in the mind. Aid stations. There are loads of aid stations. Do not kind of miss out on the chance to get some money back from Ironman. Eat all their Morton shells. Drink all their Gatorade. Drink all their Coke. Whatever you do, make sure you always take something in an aid station. It'll be hot. Typically, it is in Barcelona. even if you're taking a sip of water to keep hydrated, and the rest you pour down the front of your top or over your head to keep a core temperature down. Keep moving, keep cool. Feed off the crowd energy. This part is absolute gift. It's when you go past all the restaurants and the kind of hotels, there's always particularly a lot of drunken people out shouting, telling you look great, and telling you look so awesome, and even though you feel dreadful, but they intend well. This part is really well supported. It's kind of really the corner. You pass the the finish line 3 times, but this is also close to one of the big roundabouts. So everybody, there's the main spectator spot, by the way, because swim starts around here. So people can go to swim start, watch people come out. They can then walk up the steps and see people pass on the bike kind of 3 times. And then they can walk down and then watch people pass on the run and also be there for the finish line. So that if you've got friends coming, that's a top spot for the spectating, because also it's within a nice walking distance of cafes and hotels. If you want to go down and have a nap when you're disappearing on the bike for 6 hours. But feed off the cloud energy. Wear your tri-suits, wear your make sure you point at your number, etc. That's key, because people will look at your name and they'll shout out, you'll give you a boost. Have your finish line moves ready. Do not make that classic error of everyone going, oh, okay, cool, I'm under 12 hours. And then that's your finish picture, as in the top of your head. Doesn't matter about the final couple of seconds. Make sure you've got something. Dab, was it airplane, whatever you want to make sure you have a cool finisher picture. This is going to replace all the pictures in your house, pictures of your wedding, pictures of your firstborn, communions, etc. This is going to be more important. And then you have to lie to your partner saying which is your happiest day of your life. However, so get a good finish line picture. This is what it's all about, folks. This is the finish line. And I strongly advise you as part of your recce that you go down to this and that you check out the finish line and you visualize it, because this is what you're going to need to dig into when you're sort of going, oh my God, I have another 12K to go. My legs are shot. What am I going to do? Think of this. Think of the crowd cheering. Think of this as your reward for all the hard training, and you are so close. The finish line is key. Okay. Some key training sessions that you should probably nail in and before you're in the last few weeks. As I said, it's a sea swim. Swim in the ocean. Get your wetsuit out. Swim in choppy water. Swim with friends. Make sure you're doing it in a safe environment. Bring one of those orange buoys. Make sure your people know you're doing. Swim in a group. Practice sighting. Practice drafting. Swim in the ocean. Do not turn up to an Ironman race where there's an ocean swim, only to swim in the pool and think you're going to have a good day. You're not. Practice, acclimatize. It's key. Bike. You should be hitting milestone distance of 180K in your training plan, or close to it, because you need to actually psychologically get that milestone under your belt. Work on your nutrition and your hydration strategies. I'll talk a little bit about this in the next slide, but you should be practicing what you're eating, when you're eating, and how you're eating. I'm not how might sound a little bit weird. This is not teaching your granny how to suck eggs. This is literally how do you get the food from your bento box or the back of your tri-suit or cycle gear into your mouth. It's a skill. So is drinking from a bottle or using a front hydration system. Practice it. Test your equipment. Don't turn up with a brand new parameter and expect to be able to, and then it's just going to pair seamlessly with your Garmin on the day of your race. Make sure you've tried it. If you're going to use a disc wheel, make sure you've tried it. Do not turn up anything that you haven't given a good going over in at least 2 long training rides. Things can go wrong. You don't want it to happen on a day that you've prepared for like last year for. Okay, running. Milestone differences. I don't ever really get my guys training longer than 20 to 30 kilometers. Why? But we're going to run a marathon. Yep, but running a marathon takes an awful lot out of your legs. Running 30K on a standalone run is absolutely fine, because you're also getting aerobic gains from the bike. Also, bricks are more important in that regard. I'm happier for my guys to do 180K bike and then a 4 to 5K brick off it, rather than run a marathon straight and have to take a week off to recover. Also fine tuning your nutrition and hydration strategies. How are you getting food? How are you going to carry your food? How are you going to get it into your mouth? I'll talk about this in the next one, but it's useful. You'll need to have nutrition in terms of your gels and how you're going to take them on board. Nutrition. This is a whole topic in itself, but what I will tell you, you need to work out what you're going to eat. I'm going to kind of how you're going to eat in terms of, I said, how you're going to take the food on board, when you're going to eat, as in like what intervals do you do? Keep yourself regular in terms of, are you going to do it by distance or time? If so, how do you set up your Garmin or whatever to remind you? I go to a lot more detail, but essentially it comes down to a calorific formula about how many calories you need per hour and how you're going to get that. And you can take that from a variety of sources, whichever ways work for you. I talk about this in the video below, so I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail because it is a topic in itself. But have a look at the video, figure out what you're going to do. You're probably on top of this, but the key takeaway is what, when, how, yeah, and practice it. So make sure you've done that beforehand. The video will go into more detail. Equipment or apparel. What do you need in race day? Okay, I'm kind of blocking over that. Swim. It will be a wetsuit legal swim. I can more or less 99% guarantee that. It just regularly is. The goggles. Make sure you get a tinted set of goggles because the sun can be rising. Okay, it's hard if you're staring into the water when you're cycling all the time. Swim hat. You will get an IRONMAN branded hat, but as I said, the good tip there is get one swim hat, put it on, put your goggles, then the IRONMAN hat over it, and that will hold the goggles in place. Tri-suit, or going into a fresh, clean pair of cycling shorts with bigger chamois, or into a dry set of running kit. Personal preference, and it comes down to a trade-off between speed and comfort. If you're a newbie and you just want to get through it, I recommend that you actually just go with a clean set of clothes each time. There's another video that goes into showing the pros and cons of each. There's other things to take into account, how easy it is to use a Portaloo, etc. The video below will give you a little bit of advice. Key is make a call, practice racing in it, or practice on your tri bike, etc. Neck guard or body glide. This is something that a lot of newer triathletes don't seem to get, but I'm a big fan of it. And why is that? There's a video below about how awful it is to get neck rash from a wetsuit, and probably some of you will start getting this because you're doing your open water swim practice, where the wetsuit rubs into your neck and it's really painful. You can put Vaseline in your neck, but it damages the wetsuit. You can put body glide there, but sometimes you can miss the spot. Best thing I have and best basic equipment I have is a neck protector. Essentially what it is, it's a piece of plastic that goes around your neck, or a piece of rubber that goes to your neck. The video below shows what it does. Really comfortable. I've saved my neck, pun intended, a couple of times. Worth looking at. Other thing is having body glide. I use that for putting on my arms and my calves because it means my wetsuit comes off easier rather than sticking. Nice little transition tip there for you. Bike, TT or road bike. Absolutely a TT bike course if you have one. If you have a road bike and you use clip-on aero bars, also will be advantageous. Helmet, shades, or visor. It can get quite sunny. You need that. Cycle shoes and socks. Socks are key in iron distance. If you've only done sprint and Olympics, this is not a case where you save yourself 30 seconds or a minute in transition by putting on socks, by not putting on socks. Dry your feet, put on socks. It's the comfort factor. It's very important, especially in T2. Race belt, hydration, rain or wind jacket. That's very strange, Stephen. You've only mentioned that the weather has been gorgeous. Kayala has a history of having some storms and wind during races. So I tell guys, and please don't start looking at weather patterns 3 weeks out and start asking people what the water temperature is in forums. It's really, you're just draining your energy and others. You will only know what's going to happen on your race day realistically around 2 days out. So don't bother then. Until then, what you can do is plan to pack stuff. So as in pack a rain jacket, pack a wind jacket, and you can stick it in your blue bag. And if another day the weather's turned by the time you got out to swim, you can put it on and have a little bit of extra comfort. It's better to be looking at it than looking for it on race day. Overpack, underuse. All right, run. Runners and Loctite laces. If you don't know what Loctite laces are, make sure you check them out. There's a video below on what they do. Essentially, turn your runners into kind of slip-ons without, it means you don't have to tie your laces. It works even at iron distance races where you save yourself kind of a minute in transition, just pulling on the runners and off you go. Doesn't affect how you tie laces, etc., or how tight the runners will be. It's a really good time saver. Hat, visor, can get hot, shades, socks. Massive fan of socks, especially in T2. You do not want a wet was it a wet pair of socks going out into T2, so change into dry socks, dry your feet. It'll help save you from getting blisters. Nutrition. I put this here, but I giggle to myself because what I do is I'd never bring any nutrition on the run. Why? Because as I said, there's aid stations every 2.5 kilometers, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to eat Ironman at a house and home. I paid a rather large entry fee, and I'm really keen on getting my money's worth. So I tend to go, and I know I can, Morton gels work for me, so I just stock up every time I go. Yes, it'll be quite an amount of Morton gels for me to actually make back the entry fee. But as I said, that's my call. But if there's something specific you want to eat, have a look at making sure you have it to carry with you. Post race, change of clothes, ways of contacting family, and reading all those cool WhatsApp messages about people telling you are a legend. Okay, you will go to taper period soon, and you'll all lose your mind because you're going to convince you're losing all your fitness, and you're going to you're injured, and you're not. You're catching the flu, and you're not. Here's the things you need to work on to keep yourself occupied. You will need to recheck your final travel arrangements just to make sure that you have not booked yourself into the wrong hotel, the wrong airport, etc., or you have booked your bike box. This is coming from someone who has literally booked himself on the wrong side of the island a couple of times for Ironman races. So much so, my friends no longer allow me to do any of the logistics, but all train them to an inch of their lives. Hey, it works for me. Everyone plays to their strengths. Work out your transfer details, how you're getting from the airport to the hotel. By the way, if a really cool way of getting there is the train, dead easy, and bike boxes are easy to transport on it. Everywhere is very central in Kyella. All the hotels are around between 5 to 10 minute walking distance from transition, registration, swim, start, etc. That's why it makes it such a stress-free Ironman. Plan out your arrival time and your key events, what time you need to register, what time you're racking your bikes. If you have not booked your flights yet and you're only looking at them, book a few days in advance. I don't understand people who train for something for 9 months to a year and then just arrive the day before they have to register and they realize that the bags go missing or the bike has gone missing. If you give yourself a day or two extra, you can more or less solution any of these problems. But if you suddenly turn up and you find that your derailleur has been bent in the plane and you're trying to get to the bike store the day before the race, before you have to rack it, and you see your queue with 30 other people in a similar situation, think of your stress levels. The Ironman villages are cool beforehand. There's a great buzz. There's a great, and give yourself the extra couple of days. Just everything's about keeping it stress-free. You've worked too hard to put anything else on a razor edge. Do book a bike service before you go traveling and do it early, especially if all your club mates are going to this race and you're going to go to like a local bike store and go, sorry, we're booked up until November. Just make sure you get it in. You just want to make sure that nothing can go awry on race day. Know what you're going to pack. We'll talk about that now. Bike box. Packing checklist. Be structured. Have a swim, bike, and a run list. And also all the things you other need. Your ID, your passport, your driver's license, your QR code that will come in an email. Make sure you have access to that. Pro tip, take a picture of that because sometimes the Wi-Fi isn't great at the beach. Your race license, chargers. How many times have you seen people going, oh man, anyone got DIT charger? Just bring your own chargers, Garmin chargers. Make sure you pack everything. Also remember, you'll be doing some shakeout sessions beforehand, bring some training gear, etc. That's a lot to remember. I wish I had a list. Hey, got you covered. Again, video below on how to pack for your Ironman, including a really cool and easy to use downloadable checklist, and also shows you how to use the bike box. And on that bike box, quick tip, if you are putting the bike box and you're nervous about losing your bike, I highly recommend using an Apple iTag. This lad here, I think it's around 30 euros, but what it does is you put it in the bike box, it pairs with your phone, and it can show you where the bike is. And this saved my bacon in Florida when I arrived in International Airport, and he said, no, sorry, your bike didn't make it. It's still in Dublin. And I went, no, my phone says it's over there. And the man went, oh, okay. And he went over into the baggage car and I produced my bag. Really, really good to have. And if you're interested in it, I highly recommend it. Links in below to actually it on Amazon and all the rest. And you might save yourself a bit of stress. All about the last couple of weeks is minimizing stress and all the rest. I talk about that in my taper video at the end. Okay, so that's what we have for the moment. But the giveaway that I was talking about, if you have any queries, questions, or any concerns, I'm running a free webinar on Sunday, the 24th of September at 8 p.m. GMT. If you want to register, just ping me an email to info@smartenduranceSolutions.com. That's the email there. I tend to run these for a couple of races. They tend to be between 60 to 90 minutes. We get all sorts of questions. What should I eat in race morning? What's the most important thing to bring to transition? What's a good place to eat in Kyella afterwards? What would you recommend in terms of nutrition, etc.? So I handle all sorts of questions. So if this, make sure you register, make sure you pop along, as I'll be delighted to help out and delighted to meet people. So that's that, guys. That is our your all you need to know for your Ironman in Barcelona. Please do attend the webinar if you have any questions or queries or concerns. I'll be delighted to chat to you. If not, have a super race in Barcelona. Keep an eye out for other videos I'm going to post up in terms of how to taper, how to pack, last minute tips you should take care of before your race day. Enjoy the last few weeks. It will be heavy load and then tapering, etc. But have a great day and best of luck in Kyella.